right now.
There's a train right here.
Okay, let it come by. Right.
Shalom Uvracha Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. I'm speaking to you today from the center of the city, and I do hope that you'll be able to consider any noise in the background to be musical accompaniment rather than disturbances to our study. We have some kind of tradition about how we pray that God should dwell in the midst of Yerushalayim. This probably is as close as you can get to that. V'tishkon b'tocha ka'asher divarta. Shalom. We study today together Parashat Shoftim, the weekly section of study Shoftim. And in the concluding section of our Sidra, we read of a description of the tragic case of an untraced and unsolved murder. The Torah describes a situation wherein a corpse of a murdered person is found, has v'shalom, somewhere in Israel. But it is not known who perpetrated the crime. In a lengthy, detailed description, chapter 1 of Deuteronomy, the end of Parashat Shoftim, describes the Eglah Arufah ceremony, where the leaders, the elders, the scholars, the rabbis of the closest city to the corpse.
There may be too much wind here, but we're just going to go and apologize for. No, we won't apologize for
the Hebrew
nature.
word. The Hebrew word for wind is the same Hebrew word as spirit,
really?
Ruach. So we're looking for spiritual. I don't know. Should we continue or?
Yeah. Okay. I think there's enough compassion and.
It's okay. I just don't know if anybody can hear me. Maybe I should move closer, away from the wind. Sorry for the break. In a lengthy, detailed description, chapter 1 of Deuteronomy, the end of Parashat Shoftim, describes the Eglah Arufah ceremony, where the leaders, elders, scholars of the closest city to the corpse are required to offer some type of special offering, the heifer offering, the Eglah Arufah, as part of an atonement and rectification process. Study Deuteronomy 21, verses 6 and 7. V'chol ziknei ha'ir hahi hakirovim el hachalal yirchatzu et yidehem al ha'eglah ha'arufah v'nachal v'anu v'amru yadeinu lo shafachu et adam hazeh ve'inenu lo ra'u. And all the elders of the city who are nearest to the heifer, who are nearest to the place where the slain person was found, shall wash their hands over the heifer, yirchatzu et yidehem, and they shall proclaim and say, our hands have not spilled this blood, and our eyes and they shall proclaim and say, our hands have not spilled this blood, and our eyes did not see it. We are in no way connected to this crime. The rabbis in the Mishnah are baffled by the fact that it is the spiritual leaders who proclaim and are required to proclaim that they are in no way connected to the murder. It would seem that this proclamation would be ever so more effective if it would be recited by the local mob scene, by the local criminals of that city. the city leaders, the elders, the rabbis, the judges, they are the suspects. One could suggest that it is the moral obligation of Torah leaders to spiritually inspire, guide, and direct the community in such an effective way that never could such an atrocity, such as murder, chas v'shalom, never could such an activity of such an atrocity occur. Every crime in the city could possibly be seen as some reflection of the quality or lack thereof of spiritual leadership. The Mishnah, however, teaches in the 9th chapter of Tractate Sotah, V'chi al datenu alta, sheziknei beit din shofchei damim hein, ela shelo bal yadenu upetarnuhu below mazon, below reinuhu v'hinachnuhu below levaya. In essence, when they wash their hands, the leaders are really proclaiming that their hands are clean. Clean, not physically clean, not hygienically clean. What they're saying is that our hands have nothing to do with this tragedy. We did everything within our power to avoid it. We never left him alone. This person who came through our city, we were always there for him. We never ignored his needs for provisions. We always saw to it that he was escorted properly. We always saw to it that his safety was protected. Rav Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, the spiritual leader, connected to Yeshiva University, the Rosh Yeshiva, the great thinker and philosopher. Rav Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, often taught that we all reenact the Eglah Arufah ceremony each and every time we participate in a funeral. The custom is, as is well known, that as we leave the cemetery, we wash our hands. Does washing one's hands really remove the spiritual tum'ah, impurity of the contact with the dead? Is it enough to just wash one's hands? Not exactly. As you know, there's a red heifer hara aduma ceremony. What's this washing of one's hands as we leave the funeral, as we leave the cemetery? But, explains Rav Soloveitchik, what we are really charged to do is to reflect on our relationship with the person that was just buried. We too, as did the elders of the city, we too have to see if our hands are really clean. The elders closest to the corpse had to look at their hands, and we too look at our hands. And we have to ask ourselves, did we do everything within our power to keep this person alive? Did we visit him or her when we heard that they weren't feeling well? Did we do anything to alleviate their suffering? Did we encourage him? Did we encourage her to have the will to live? Did we discuss the potential future, the potential beautiful future that perhaps they could have lived with a dream of somehow actualizing? Are our hands clean? Yadeinu lo shafchu et adam hazeh. We too have to ask ourselves, can we really say that our hands did not spill this blood? Every person is to spiritually examine his or her hands and see whether their hands are spiritually clean. If for the purpose of washing one's hands after a funeral is considered ever so essential, perhaps it's because of the spiritual message of examining one's ways and one's contact with the people that are no longer. If you're interested, you can find reference to this idea in the code of Jewish law. Rav Soloveitchik quoted in the name of early scholars, but if you look at Yored De'ah, Siman Shin Ayin Vav, Seif Dalit, the laws of mourning, the laws of burial, where the Be'er HaGolah cites the very custom of reciting the sentences of our parsha, the sentences from Parashat Shoftim. He says that this was a practice in certain communities at every funeral. The recitals of the elders of the closest city, these recitals were recited by people participating in the funeral ceremony. As the Be'er HaGolah writes, B'harkach rochatzim yideihem. The custom was that after the burial, they washed their hands, V'omrim, Yadeinu, our hands, Lo shafchu et adam hazeh, our hands did not spill this blood. Ve'eineinu lo ro, we saw nothing that would ever lead us to think that there was a danger involved. May the study of the unsolved murder, may the study of Eglah Arufah remain completely only academic. May there never be any future murders anywhere, and especially not in the Holy Land. And may God remove all forms of death from Eretz Yisrael and from the entire world. And may this land continue to be the land of life and of blessing and of joy. In the words of our very Parashat Shoftim, L'ma'an tihyeh v'yarashta et ha'aretz, so that you will live and possess the land. Thank you so much for listening. Shalom.
Thank you. Can I ask a question that's, what if somebody is so disillusioned with life, has seen so much hypocrisy, has so much suffering, and they say, I don't believe in God? What can you say to such a person? Or is there any reason to say anything? And they just say that they want to lead a life of here and now and hedonism and whatever. And
I would say that if a person examines, there are many ways of seeing God in this world. There are surely millions of systems, literally millions of systems, where if one studies the exact plan and design of these systems, they're so baffling that it requires a certain level of blind faith in atheism to believe that all of the systems of the world are just accidental. I think one of the concepts that we often emphasize in our religious studies is that there's design in the world, that there's intricate design. There's no one who feels that let's say a computer, there's no one on planet Earth today in the entire world, there's not one person in this world who believes that a computer was just the result of a million years or a billion years of accidents, of tornadoes, of earthquakes, of materials, of scrap metal just happen to fall into place with certain kinds of bits and certain kinds of memory. No one believes that. Every time we see a complicated product, we understand that there's something beyond the product. That there's a creator, that there's a designer, that there's a manufacturer. So I think that many people, I think in their inner being, do know that this world is not just a place that just happens by itself. But I think very often, as you said, when people go through difficulties in life, sometimes a person, God forbid, it's the very difficulties that they're experiencing that can blind them to the beauty of the world, to the beauty of life, and to the beauty of God. I'm not condemning them and I'm not judging them. May God remove all pain and all suffering from all of these people. I do think it's the place of people who are trying to help them. In the same way we're required to bring physical life to someone who's dying physically, I think it's our requirement to try to bring spiritual life to someone who's dying spiritually. If someone is missing the God element in life, they're missing such a basic point. And maybe we have to discuss indications of God. Depends on the level of philosophical proofs for the existence of God. maybe reminding them when they saw God in their own life, or maybe the person who's speaking to them, helping them share stories with themselves, with the person they're speaking to about where they saw God in their own lives. Maybe seeing the positive elements of the world can remove some of this great darkness. I do think that the level of despair, if I understood your question correctly, the despair, is that what you're speaking about? Someone who just gives up because so many things are going wrong?
The question is God alive and well, so to speak?
Well, I think the very fact that we're sitting here in Yerushalayim, I mean, that's you know how many people. I remember reading once about a debate between philosophers trying to prove the existence of God, and one of them said, "I have a 3-letter proof for the existence of God," and he spelled out the letter J-E-W. Said the Jew proves the existence of God. What are we doing here? What are we doing still on planet Earth, functioning as a people and as a nation, and this great country, this great city? You know how many people thought it's all over? They wrote the obituary for the Jewish people and for the Jewish future. And here we are to tell the story. Yes, God is very much well and alive, so to speak. I don't like the terms exactly, but yes, to borrow your term. Right here in the midst of Yerushalayim, just come here, and you can sense it in a really deep spiritual way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shalom, shalom.